My name is Chris, otherwise known as M. Christian, and welcome to my presentation on the future of sex, where hopefully I'll inform, entertain, and inspire you on what gender and sexuality may be like in the years ahead. Before I get started, I want to say that it's extremely important for me to be as respectful and inclusive as possible. So I want to apologize up front and definitely invite corrections if necessary, and respectfully ask you to tell me how to be better moving forward. Next, I want to give a hearty thank you to everyone at ReaderCon and those out there listening to me right now for giving me time to share my thoughts. I just hope everyone enjoys listening to my presentation as much as I've enjoyed putting it together. As for who I am and why I'm doing this, well, I've been a published author since 1993. My first sale was an erotic science fiction story to the now defunct Future Sex magazine, which Susie Bright subsequently picked up for her Best American Erotica anthology. If you want to check out more of my sexy science fiction, I have several novels and collections available to purchase, hint, 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 including Finger's Breath, Painted Doll, Bachelor Machine, Skin Effect, and the recent Hard Drive, The Best Sci-Fi Erotica of M. Christian. For the last 6 years, I've turned my interest towards nonfiction, where I've written 500 or so articles on topics ranging from BDSM how-to guides to sex toy reviews. Ironically, the site I primarily write for is futuresex.net, where I've covered practically everything involving the intersection of sex and technology, as well as speculating on what making whoopee might be like in the days, years, and centuries ahead, including new developments in virtual reality, augmented reality, genetic engineering, robotics, artificial intelligence, the list goes on and on. For more info, please check out my site at www.mchristian.com or follow me on Twitter at mchristianzoba. As for why I'm giving this presentation, it's because I've long felt that when it comes to sex, science fiction hasn't been great at it. If anything, with very, very rare exceptions, it feels like the genre is consistently mired in tired old tropes or frustratingly refuses to use their powers of speculation on anything to do with gender, sexual orientation, kink, or relationships. I mean, seriously, how often are books or media set hundreds or thousands of years in the future, yet everyone is straight, vanilla, binary, and relationships feel like they're lifted from a 1950s sitcom? We can and should do better at this. For one thing, original storytelling is boring. For another, not including diverse characters and situations is an absolute insult to everyone who isn't white, straight, and monogamous, especially these days when the rest of the world is steadily moving towards accepting and celebrating diversity. Now, for this presentation, what I thought I'd do is give you a brief rundown on an assortment of technological innovations and how they might affect human sexuality in the future, aiming to get your juices flowing with cool new ideas to ponder. Then concluding with my thoughts on what will change sex the most. And as a teaser, it's not technology, and we're already seeing the emergence of it today. To be clear though, while I've written a hell of a lot of stories and articles on the future of sex, I'm not seriously trying to predict the future. Instead, I want to challenge your expectations and fire up your imagination so hopefully when sex comes up in your work, you won't be part of the problem, but instead offer your own creative and inclusive ideas. One last thing before I get going. I won't be engaging in any unnecessary doomsaying. The reason is when it comes to tired old cliches, dystopias are long overdue to be buried under a million tons of concrete. Not only are they lazy, but they're a symptom of what I consider to be harmful cynicism when it comes to technological innovations. Case in point, how many times have you heard about a step forward? Be it artificial intelligence, gene therapy, immersive entertainment, or stuff like that there, only to be bombarded by hysterical claims about how it'll lead to cats and dogs living together in sin, or at least endless Terminator or Frankenstein references. I'm not saying we shouldn't be wary, but that if we keep thinking of the future as dystopian, it's a high probability and it'll end up as a self-fulfilling prophecy. So let's be daring and envision an optimistic future instead of a dreadful one. A world full of limitless possibilities and fantastic wonders. And sexual pleasures. Can't forget those. First up is a technology that's gotten an enormous boost during the COVID-19 pandemic. Though virtual reality has skyrocketed in interest, it hasn't gone mainstream due to its high price tag, at least not yet. There's no question, as demand goes up and the technology gets more affordable, VR will become widespread, and this is where the fun begins. There are already too many VR adult entertainment sites, each with more explicit content than the last, right along with an impressive uptick in erotic games. But what a lot of people don't get about VR is that, sure, it's immersive, putting you right into the action, so to speak. But more than this, it allows you to become someone else. In the years ahead, you'll be able to slip on a headset, perhaps backed up by haptic technology or direct neural simulation, so you'll feel, taste, and smell what's happening as well, and experience sex as another person. This expansion of sexuality would have a significant impact on human society, as you'd be able to literally walk a mile in another person's shoes, if that's your kink. And because of this, it'll become harder and harder to hold onto a sexually bigoted viewpoint. It'd give people a way to try out this, that, or other form of sexual expression, gender identity, or relationship dynamics to find out who they are and what they're into. I'll return to the impact of immersive technology in a bit, but next I want to talk about the kissing kin to VR, AR, as an augmented reality. If you don't know what this is, think semi-transparent images digitally superimposed over your vision. So by wearing AR glasses or contact lenses, you'd be able to learn everything you ever wanted to know about the world around you, including instantaneous language translation, instructions on repairing something, or warnings of unsafe conditions. And you'd have the ability to learn about the people around you as well. So let's postulate a future combination of social media and augmented reality, where you'd have the option to share with the world whatever you wanted about yourself, like preferred pronouns, sexual orientation, relationship status, whatever you feel comfortable with. Before you get all fretty about how this could turn into a nightmare, in keeping with my presentation's optimism, instead consider a system where sensitive information would only be displayed to others who've already simpatico with yours. So if you're into a specific sexual thing, then only those with similar sexual interests or gender identity would see that you have that in common with them. With a system like this, people would be able to find kindred spirits or sexual partners easily and safely. Best of all, the ability to look at a crowd or glance at people passing you on the street and find someone to emotionally connect with would do wonders to help eliminate the emotional crisis of the 21st century, that of loneliness. Next up, I'm going to discuss birth control and how we're seeing significant developments, such as the possibility of as-needed gels or long-term implants, good for decades of protection. With these new technologies in mind, let's speculate on a future where once a person reaches a certain age, they'd have the option to donate their sperm or eggs and receive a birth control implant good for the rest of their life. This way, members of our hypothetical society would be freed from unwanted pregnancies. Think of the sexual revolution of the 1960s and 70s, but dialed up to 11, especially if we combine this with a global initiative to eliminate sexually transmitted infections. This system could also alter how we view relationships and child rearing, as to do so would necessitate the conscious decision to remove a birth control implant. So we'd have a world where becoming a parent isn't something that just happens, but requires serious planning and forethought. Children would never be considered a mistake, but would always know they were wanted and therefore cherished. And with a guaranteed income from birth, would not be born into poverty because one partner neglected their responsibilities. Another popular and somewhat controversial sex-related technology is the growing popularity of sex robots. Agreed, currently they're little more than dolls, sometimes and sometimes not, with rudimentary artificial intelligence. Putting on our imagination beanies, when they become fully autonomous, being with one could be socially and emotionally comparable with spending intimate moments with a human lover. And they won't just lie there either. As coupled with sophisticated artificial intelligence, they could also act as guides and therapists, helping people overcome emotional, relationship, or sexual concerns. Just as they are beginning to begin now, many will prefer robots over flesh and blood companions, leading to its eventual acceptance as a sexual orientation. Despite being a mainstay of cyberpunk, I don't think bolted-to-your-face implants will ever be common. After all, it's hard enough having to cope with upgrading your smartphone without it being lodged in your brain or helping operate your genitals. Rather, I see augmented reality with its power to supplement the outside world and replacing information hardware like monitors, keyboards, mice, and screens doing the job far better. However, there will come a time when the technology gets down to a manageable and unobtrusive scale. That's when things will get interesting, as we have the ability to create modular body parts. Don't like what you have? Then plug and play in something else, or give yourself something that to us residents of the 21st century might appear radically unique. As there's no reason why anyone in this culture should limit themselves by having an average, ordinary set of genitals when they can sport whatever they can imagine, or have a bunch of whatever they like spread all over their body if they like. If you're still thinking of bulky hardware, remember that eventually science will give us smart materials, transformable into any form, color, or texture we want, opposed to single function sockets or plugs. We could have genitals that can be morphed or modified with a thought. With this too will, excuse the expression, come the expanding of our sexuality beyond the limits of our bodies, as wiring brain interface technology would bring the possibility of orgasming from or interacting with everything and anything, including making love to inanimate objects, or in response to what us might seem wholly unsexy things like meeting a sales goal or finishing up the dishes. This technology would allow for ultimate immersive experiences. I would be free from bulky headgear and to feel, taste, touch, and every other sense in an artificial alternate reality. So no matter your fantasy, you could experience it. This, in turn, could help eliminate bias and prejudice, as experience life and sex as another person would be as common and instinctual as breathing. A button-pushing technology like no other, with the advent of CRISPR, the question of genetic engineering has now become not if, but when. On the simple side of things, altering our organic bodies would mean no one would be forced to exist in a body that doesn't reflect their true self. Going with this concept, what happens when bodies are completely changeable? We might, for instance, be able to give ourselves wholly new sexual extensions, combining sex organs like taste buds to our genitals, or rewire our nerves so a handshake is equal to, well, you get the picture. Depending on who you ask, we may or may not be able to eventually digitize human consciousness. For the sake of fun and games, let's say we will, leading to all sorts of intriguing sexual possibilities. For one thing, our sense of time would completely change, as a digitized mind could live an entire lifetime in an hour, minute, or even a second. Using our digital overclocking, we could live any life we want, again aiding us in evolving away from a world fraught with intolerance and sexual ignorance. What's more intriguing is the concept of copying our minds. These splinter selves then could go on to experience their own unique lives in parallel with the original. Then, if it's mutually agreed, the two or more versions of ourselves could merge to form a single consciousness with the combined memories of everyone involved. So you'd remember the life you had as a different gender, species, or one with unique modifications of your personality and or sexual desires, all within the blink of an eye. Feel like you've done everything and have the t-shirt to prove it? Well, consider the benefits of selective amnesia. After backing up your consciousness, simply selectively eliminate your memories and go on to live an entirely different life filled with altogether different, to you that is, pleasures, with the option again to combine this self with the one you've previously preserved. And why not join with more than one person in a polyamorously pansexual clusters of collective consciousness? This would be a world where circles of lovers are a flickering dance party of possibilities, with one or more of them tripping the erotic fantastic in the so-called real world or the endless wonders of virtual space, and where everyone would mix and match to form temporary moments of sexual collective consciousness. With our minds freed from biological constraints, also ponder the possibilities of loading ourselves into synthetic or genetically engineered forms. This way, we'd have bodies purely designed for sexual pleasure, or we could have the option to go all wild thing as any member of the animal kingdom we want. Of course, these sexual escapades don't necessarily have to exist in this reality, as all of this and more, like having sex in a universe with different physical laws, could take place in a wholly virtual environment. Although I have plenty of more technologies worth exploring, I want to mention artificial intelligence before moving on. I do this because, as with digitizing human consciousness, I see it as humanity's ultimate purpose, to create or evolve into something to go where, in our present forms, we can't. And before you ask, I honestly don't think AI will be a threat unless we program it to be. Instead, let's consider AI as our progeny and as a partner, a digitally augmented world where our friends, playmates, or lovers may or not have originated from lines of code. And if they are, they'd be considered no different than if they'd been born from a combination of genes. In this future, we'd frolic with them in information space, meeting and mingling for quantum level sexual adventures, dancing in data streams, flirting in virtual domains, engaged in millisecond romances, or merging with them to create entirely new life forms. And employing the time flexibility of digitized consciousness, this could go on for centuries, though perhaps merely a lovely and sensual afternoon as we all voyage from star to star at nearly the speed of light. The fun doesn't stop there. As putting all these and other technological pieces together, we can envision post-humanity as existing in multiple artificial planes of existence. So our potential ancestors, descendants, may consider virtual reality as something akin to spiritual domains, spaces where we'd be able to experience whatever we desire, freed once and for all from any physical limitations. They could even casually drift back and forth between them and the so-called real world as easily as we step from one room to another. For the people in this hypothetical future, it wouldn't be this reality and that one, but a single cohesive existence with onion-like layers, each with its own unique set of parameters, time flow, and physical laws. All this is fun to play with, but now I want to address something, in my humble opinion, has the potential to change human sexuality like nothing else. Something we're already experiencing. Starting with the reality that the traits Western culture often thinks of as masculine and feminine are merely social constructs, and as such, everyone has the right to use or create their own gender identity. And before you ask, while research is still ongoing, scientists feel confident that there could be anywhere from 5 to 11 different biological sexes. Far more when you factor in things like the implantation of embryos, artificial insemination, and future technologies like parthenogenesis and genetic resequencing. Add to this how inevitably, we'll be able to exist in virtual realities where our digital selves can do and become more than our physical bodies ever can. This means that sex, gender, and orientation and identity are inexorably moving away from outside categorization and further towards the acceptance of self-definition, where you can be who you are, who you love, and how you find pleasure, as well as the freedom to change your gender, sexuality, and whatever else you want, leading to a future that could finally acknowledge and respect fluidity, a society where everyone has the right to be themselves, and every interaction won't begin by trying to categorize someone, but instead be replaced with a polite inquiry, conscientious listenings, and respectful acknowledgement. This fluidity would naturally extend to relationships as well. Right now we have monogamy or other, usually polyamory. But along with gender identity and sexual orientation, why shouldn't relationships be self-defined as well? Imagine a future where relationships reflect the needs of those in them in whatever form makes everyone in them the happiest. Monogamy for those who enjoy it, but also ones based on BDSM, long or short-term commitments, extended families, contractual agreements, the list is gloriously infinite. But another and possibly more profound question to consider: what happens to the very concept of gender, sexual orientation, as well as every other aspect of what and how we love other people when our bodies, followed by our minds, are equally fluid? This isn't as far away as you may think, as we already see it taking place in video games and social media, where we can become whoever we want. So why not dream of a future where, as our physical self can be tweaked, adjusted, or thoroughly transformed at any time for any reason, demisexuality becomes a norm. In case you're too lazy to Google it, demisexuality refers to people, and I'm quoting here, only feel sexually attracted to someone when they have an emotional bond with the person. So picture a society where a person's physical form isn't what makes them attractive or sexually desirable. as it can be altered, but who they are as a person. Staying with this, let's stay optimistic and hope that today's rallying calls to recognize the importance of consent will not go unheard. Forging a future where asking permission, respecting what's said, negotiation, and acknowledgement when mistakes are made are part of every potential sexual encounter and every other social interaction as well. For a genre that likes to say it's frequently about speculating on the future, when it comes to sex, science fiction continues to be painfully antiquated, clinging to old social constructs, refusing to embrace diversity, and shoving sex into a dark and shameful corner of the genre. So the inclusion of it is either clumsy or unimaginative, or end up ostracizing it to the erotica side of the aisle. Things are changing, though not far or fast enough, as demonstrated by science fiction's sadly too prevalent trans and homophobia, along with its death grip on antiquated gender roles. Science fiction needs to move forward by turning its speculative gaze not at what was, but what is, by recognizing and respecting the brave people working to show us the importance of inclusivity, diversity, tolerance, respect, consent, and sexual responsibility. In this way, the future is with us right now, not with rockets or robots, aliens or androids, but reflected in the intrepid explorers of the final frontier, human sexuality. And this concludes my presentation on the future of sex. If you have any questions or comments, I encourage you to participate in the follow-up Discord Q&A. In the meantime, I sincerely hope you enjoyed it. And if I could leave you with anything, it would be to try to see the future as filled with endless opportunities to personally, as well as for humanity as a whole, to leave behind sexual ignorance, hate, and fear of the unknown. And for all of us to do our part to make the world a better place. One where people are free to be who they are and everyone, with consent, can enjoy pleasure with whoever and however they want. A future filled with laughter, joy, and most of all, love.